Then, besides the use of the new tank, the Battle of Cambrai does not differ materially from all the other offensives and counteroffensives on the Western Front. The fact is that neither side has managed to capture and keep as much as 10 kilometers of ground since the outbreak of the war in 1914. They've only added to the killing field.
What passing bells for those who die as cattle? Only the monstrous anger of the guns. Only the stuttering fire's rapid rattle can patter out their hasty orisons. No mockeries now for them, no prayers or bells, nor any voice of mourning save the choir, the shrill, demented choir of wailing shells, and bugles calling for them from sad shires. What candles may be held to speed them all? Not in the hands of boys, but in their eyes shall shine the holy glimmers of goodbyes. The pallor of girls' brows shall be their pall, their flowers the tenderness of patient minds, and each slow dusk a drawing down of blinds.
Events thousands of miles away on the Eastern Front are about to impact dramatically on the campaign in northern France. The war isn't popular with the long-suffering Russian people, and neither is the Tsar. There is a general uprising against the Imperial Government in March 1917. A provisional government is established, and Tsar Nikolai II is forced to abdicate. The provisional government does, however, continue to pursue the war, and its policies are not discernibly different from those of the imperial regime. The unrest continues through the summer and autumn. Now Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov, Lenin, returns from political exile to St. Petersburg to lead his Bolshevik party in the revolution he has largely masterminded. Another arrival back in Russia from exile is Lenin's colleague, Leo Trotsky. A core policy of Bolshevism is the withdrawal of Russia from the war, or, in the words of Lenin, every committed socialist must practice total defeatism and thereby obtain peace. To seize power, Lenin must, in his own words, use the imperial weapons to fight a people's war, and that is called revolution, and the revolution must be passionate but organized. The Central Committee of the Bolshevik Party convenes on the 27th of October, and on Lenin's suggestion, it is decided to secure power by immediate armed insurrection. Leo Trotsky is put in charge of the action that takes place on the 7th of November 1917, and on that day, the Red Guard takes over the central telephone office, the post office, the stations, and the bridges across the River Neva. St. Petersburg is controlled by the Bolsheviks, and the provisional government takes flight. Though casualties in the country are mounting, and thousands of innocent people have to pay with their blood, it is clear to Lenin that the war with Germany and Austria-Hungary is the biggest threat to the revolution, and the new government offers an armistice to these enemies. The armistice is signed between Russian and Austro-German negotiators on the 15th of December, and fighting ceases on the Eastern Front. But it is only the Russian soldiers that can enjoy the peace and return home. Peace is not contagious, and the German troops are quickly relocated to the Western Front, where current resources are being stretched in the face of both British and French offensives.
Night and the distant rumbling, for the train of the whole army passed by the estate. But still, he raised his eyes and played again the clavichord and gazed at her, and waited. Almost like a man looking in a mirror which was completely filled with his young face, knowing how his features bore his sorrow more beautifully seductive with the grace of music. The scene faded out. Instead, wearily, at the window in her trouble she held the violent thumbing of her heart. He finished, the dawn wind blowing hard, and strangely alien on the mirror table stood the black shako with its white death's head.
The German High Command is acutely aware that the balance of power is swinging in favor of the Allies with the almost daily arrival of fresh American troops and equipment, and that drastic action must be taken before these new forces can be sent into combat. It is up to Hindenburg and Ludendorff to plan this last German effort to win the war. Clearly, the unlimited submarine warfare does not work, so the only realistic option left is to force a decision on the Western Front by launching a massive offensive aimed at the French capital. The opening drive of the German offensive begins on the 21st of March 1918 and is directed against the British front just south of the town of Arras. The Germans are, from the outset, confident that this is the drive that finally will prove successful, and Kaiser Wilhelm decides to travel to the front in order to observe his expected victory firsthand. The Kaiser has, in fact, never visited Paris, and sees this campaign as an opportunity to correct this lapse in his education. So confident is the monarch that he has brought with him his dress uniform so he can be properly attired when his victorious troops enter the French capital. The German attack, when it comes, is indeed overpowering, and the British forces are driven mercilessly back. The offensive does initially result in the biggest change in the front line since 1914, as the Germans advance some 65 kilometers and appear unstoppable. The German surge is finally halted on the 5th of April, as French reinforcements are rushed to the front. But the Allies are still in disarray and are seriously worried about the German successes, particularly in the first week of the campaign. It is clear that there is a lack of coordination between the Allied forces, and General Ferdinand Foch is appointed Commander-in-Chief of all Allied armies in France, the Belgian, British, American, and French. This is the first time that this command structure has been deployed on the Western Front. Later in April, the Germans launch yet another desperate offensive against the British forces. After a battle fought with determination, the Germans managed to take Messines Ridge and Armentières, yielding the tragic but customary high casualty numbers on both sides.